Hi everyone, a very warm welcome to this Fronius webinar. What are we going to do today? We will take a look at Solar.web, and the idea is that we are going through the things that you as an installer are communicating to your end customer once you're done with the system and you're leaving a customer with it. So this webinar will show the core of Solar.web that every PV owner should know. My name is Max, and I'm having the honor to guide you through this webinar today. I'm not alone. Behind the camera is my colleague Michael. And if you have questions, then please feel free to ask them. Use the chat function, and Michael will answer them while I'm speaking. And without further delay, we will jump right into Solar.web and go into the application. You should see my screen. So this is Solar.web. I guess you all know it. And as I said, in this webinar, I will not go into every detail of Solar.web. Okay, you're not seeing my screen. Wait, I know what I forgot something. I have to share the right screen. Now this should work. Yes, Michael gives me a thumbs up. So you're seeing my screen. So this is Solar.web, I guess you know it. And as I said, I will just take a look at the core of it and not go into every function. So what you should tell your customer is that you have 5 sections over there. It's overview, analysis, energy balance, reports, service messages, and settings. And for him important is the overview function, energy balance, the service messages, and some parts of the settings. In analysis, you can get out some statistics about what current or what voltage your MPP trackers are delivering. And so this is important for the installer, but for the owner of the system, probably not. And with reports, you can get out production and consumption data in an Excel file. You can get it sent to an email address and have the statistics in, as I said, in an Excel file somewhere to store it. Again, for the beginning, probably not important. For an advanced and technical experienced user, probably yes. Hence, in this webinar, we will only take a look at overview, energy balance, service messages, and settings. I think the overview is self-explaining. You see here the current power. We are here into a PV system of a colleague of mine. This is the bubble chart, and probably most interesting in this bubble chart is the direction of the energy flows. We see here already it's 9 in the morning in Austria. We already have a production of 4.5 kilowatt that's coming from the roof. My colleague, he's currently on vacation. Probably he hasn't got up yet. We have here a consumption of 400 watt, and the battery is already fully loaded at 9 in the morning. Obviously, it's summer. And below here, we see the weather forecast. This is a function of Solar.web Premium. You might know it, Solar.web, there's a free version and a premium version. And with the premium version, you can get the weather and production forecast. And as you can see, we have wonderful weather currently. It's summertime here in Austria. Then let's jump to energy balance. Energy balance is probably the most interesting section for your customer. We see here 2 different kinds of analysis, production and consumption data. And both are showing the same, but you could say from a different perspective. So if we're going production, or if we're going to month, it's probably clearer. Production shows how much energy is produced and where is this energy going. And consumption shows how much is consumed and where is this energy coming from. In the end, it should be the same data. You see here, we have down below here day, month, year, and total. So with day, we see the daily production and the daily consumption. There are the Fronius typical colors. Green is always the color of the battery, red of the own pilot, and violet of the watt pilot. We could take another day that we also have violet here, the charging of the electric vehicle. So this area here, this is the overall production, and the color they are showing where is this energy going. We see here in the morning there happened the charging of the watt pilot. Afterwards the battery was charged, and later on the gray area shows that the energy went into the grid. Blue is the color of consumption, or the curve of consumption. So here some night consumption, and in the morning we see here also some high consumption over here, and later on almost nothing. And then those two curves, the red curve and the green curve. The red curve shows the temperature that the own pilot is generating. You will only see this curve if a temperature sensor is connected to the own pilot. And the green curve is showing the charging status of the battery. One thing that is sometimes causing confusion, all the areas and all the different colors, they are corresponding to this left axis here. So this is production in kilowatt. And on the right axis, we see Celsius and percent. And the curves, they are corresponding to this axis. So the watt pilot, the temperature is shown in degrees Celsius, and the status of the battery is shown in percentage points. So you see here above here we have 100% state of charge, and later on here around midnight it's 70%, 80%. If we're taking a look at consumption, you will see a very similar picture. As I said, it's the same thing from the other perspective. So we see this yellow line, this is the production, and again the areas there, the colored areas, they're showing where the energy went to. Where the energy came from. That's power from the green is here, power from the battery. So this is a day-to-day analysis, and below here we see month analysis. There we can compare days of a month. Here we are in consumption, so the overall bar shows the total amount of consumption and where the energy came from. Gray means this energy came from the grid, green from the battery, yellow it was consumed directly. If we take a look at production, we see how much was produced and again where this energy went to. So here, for example, we have a total production of 75.62 kilowatt hours, and of these 75 kilowatt hours, 57 went to the grid, 4.48 to the battery, 0 to the watt pilot, 5.7 to own pilot, and 8 were consumed directly. With year, we can compare months with each other. This is interesting, especially if we're going to consumption, and then we can see where my colleague, he was independent from public grid, or almost independent. We see here a typical consumption for a heat pump, high consumption in the winter month, low consumption in summer. And from April until, let's say, October, he was almost independent of the public grid, and he had more consumption in December and January. And also interesting to see is the total section. There we can compare various years. You will see here, if we go to production, my colleague installed some new PV modules in 2023 or 2024, and hence we have here less production in 22 and 23 than in 24. 25 is not over yet, but will have a similar number than the previous year. And then on top, we see two extra options, return on investment and expense. Those are only available in the premium feature of Solar.web. And in order to get those numbers correctly, in the section tariffs, going to settings and then to tariffs, then the right tariff has to be entered. We will see that later on how this works. And what do we do here? We see here the total savings, and they consist of the yield by feeding into the grid, and on the other hand, by savings of not consumed electricity that needed to be bought if my colleague hadn't have the PV system. Here you see 2023 was an exceptional good year. Why that? Because energy prices were high in 2023. 24 was a completely different story here. And at the expenses, we see the total costs of the total electricity costs. In 2023, those actual costs were 2,000 euros, almost 2,000 euros. Total energy costs 4,400, and he had savings of in total of 2,400 euros. Again, the tariffs need to be set correctly, so to get this statistic right. The option return on investment and expenses, they are only available in total year and month for logical reasons, not daily. Here you only have production and consumption values. So this was energy balance. Energy balance is probably the most important section to watch for the owner of the system. Secondly, what I want to show you is service messages. Service messages will pop up. So if there is an error message, which happens, then you see the red light flashing here on the Gen 24. We see here in the background. And if it lights red, then this means, as I said, an error has occurred. No reason for panic. So this is what you should also explain to the PV owner. First, you can take a look at the service messages on Solar.web, and then you can decide to call the installer or not, and if it's, as I said, reason for concern or not. If we go to service messages, then we see here three filter options: error, warning, and info. By standard, only error is ticked, the others not. And we certainly recommend to leave it like that, because the warning and the info messages, they have no reason they give no reason for concern and are not relevant to the owner. I choose here the last half year, and then we will see that my colleague had some error messages. And I just click on one of them, and then you see here suggestions for causes and solutions. And this is what the owner of the PV system can do without calling any installer. So this here was an error, communication error between inverter and battery. So first, plausible cause, a restart process has been initiated. If that was the case, the status code can be triggered by an inverter or battery restart. Wait until the system has rebooted. So in that case, it was an error message, but no reason for concern. If that didn't work out, then secondly, possible reason, the status code appears constantly or repeatedly. If that happens, then contact your PV system installer or contact a Fronius trained installer. we can, this mem is maybe also a good one. So error message, CAN bus communication failure during data transfer. Again, if it occurs once, automatic correction, no need to panic. Or maybe another reason, outdated software, then run the latest software update. We will also see that how that works. And if the latest software was already installed, try a manual restart. And if also that didn't help and the status code appears constantly or repeatedly, then contact a PV system owner. So in total, if a service message appears, an error message, if the light flashes red, no panic, check the service message in Solar.web, follow the suggestions, and if that doesn't work either, then contact the PV installer. That's the message you should give to the PV owner. And then I want to, last but not least, go a bit into settings. The settings, they should be done by you installers. So nothing the PV owner should worry about. One exception, we see here operation mode, and new operation mode corresponds to the ECA, to the energy cost assistant, so our smart battery management system. And this might also be interesting for the PV owner, for the end customer, to take a look at every now and then, and also to get it installed. My colleague has already installed the ECA. What is the ECA doing? It is it's using a flexible tariff and is blocking the battery or even charging the battery if the price of the flexible tariff is favorable. You will see, I will show you how that works. We will take a day here somewhere in April, somewhere in spring. Maybe let's take that one, that looks good. So below here in blue, we see the consumption tariff, and typical for the consumption tariff, we have one peak here in the morning, usually low energy price around noon, and another peak in the evening. And the yellow line here, this is the feed-in tariff that my colleague is getting. And above, you see in yellow the production, in gray consumption, typical for a heat pump are those peaks every now and then overnight. And in green, we see the state of charge of the battery. And those are the commands the energy cost assistant is giving. What did he do on this day? So between midnight and 6 in the morning, the ECA realized that there will be a price peak in the morning, and it's better to keep the battery charge at night, so they take rather the cheap energy from the grid and then use the energy from the battery here when price is high. This is what the energy cost assistant is doing. If you need more information on the energy cost assistant, then no worries, there are how-to videos on our YouTube channel, so feel free to take a look at them, and then you will get more explanation on it. Another thing, for using the ECA, you need a flexible tariff. And how to set this flexible tariff? If you go here on tariffs and general tariff settings, reference tariff, and you add here, then you can choose between standard tariff and flexible tariff, and then select. And ECA is only working with the flexible tariff. This is the place also where you set the tariffs for getting the expenses and revenues. I showed you first in energy balance. To get that correctly, you also need to set the tariffs here. All right. we already get to an end of this webinar. I will just jump back to my presentation. So as I said in this webinar, I wanted to show you, or to give you advice what to tell your PV owner, your customer, once you are done with this PV system and you're leaving customer side. My recommendation is show him energy balance, show him the correct settings, including the ECA, and show him the service messages. This was the last one. So service messages, energy balance, and the correct settings, including ECA. As always, recording will be forwarded to you in the next day, so you can rewatch this webinar as well. If you give us a couple of days, you will also find this webinar, among others, on our YouTube channel. So please feel free to go to our YouTube channel, and there you will find further information, further webinars, trainings, and so on and so forth. If you want to register for further webinars or for further trainings, then please visit our website. And I'm happy to welcome you again on a different channel. All right, if there are any other questions, Michael and myself, we will stay a bit longer online. I will switch off my camera and my microphone, but you can ask questions if you have some. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. I'm looking forward to see you next time. Until then, a lot of success and bye-bye.